is my dad, and we own a farm in the Adirondacks, and we are making a go of agriculture. So the main activity at our farm is a goat dairy. This season we milk 48 goats, primarily Nubians and Alpines. And we make 4 kinds of artisanal cheese: fresh chev, soft ripened cheese, tome, and feta. But in addition to the goat dairy, we also do a lot of other things to make our small farm work better. We raise pork, beef, and goat meat, and fun fact, goat meat is actually the most widely consumed meat in the world. We also raise broilers. We collect eggs daily from our laying hens, and we make soap and caramels with the excess milk from the creamery. We also cut timber in the winter, for the local mill, so we're doing things all year round. We're always busy. Now, in addition to being partly raised upstate, I spent most of my summers there. I grew up in New York City, and most of my peers and a lot of the people I knew didn't really know where their food came from outside of the fact that it came from the grocery store. And a lot of people didn't really see any need to know anything beyond that. But recently, however, young people are becoming more and more interested in where their food comes from, and as a result, they're going back to the land and starting small. And because of this, we see the diversified farm making a comeback. So these logos are examples of both long-standing and new farms in the Adirondack region, and we're seeing existing farmers working alongside a new generation of farming enthusiasts to bring dormant farms back to life, and they're helping them to create new places to produce good food and creating a place to exchange new ideas for successful farming. So why does this matter? Well, we think it matters a lot, especially since we own a farm. And there are 3 reasons that we really think that small-scale farming is important. First, because you can make great food on a local farm. Second, because farming can be a key contributor to the economy. And third, because small-scale farming is good for conservation. But with that said, we're not saying that farming isn't hard. It is. And because of this, we'll also share with you some of the challenges that we think are really prevalent for Adirondack farmers. And finally, if what we say interests you, we'll share with you some of the ways that you can get involved.
Okay, anyone who knows me knows that knows the 3 things that why we think farming is important: good food, good business, and great for the environment. I'll come back on the business topic in a second. Great food. I think the best spokesperson on this topic is from a place called the Blue Hill Farm in just north of New York City, and that's Dan Barber. You may have seen him speak. He's done some great TED Talks if you want to Google him. But he basically says not even the greatest chef in the world can make great food without good, fresh farm products. Beth Spa, who owns one of the farms up there, Rehoboth, she says it a different way. She says you don't have to be a good cook with fresh farm products. So now the good business. This area around the blue line was once called the Adirondack Crescent, and I shudder to start talking like this in front of I'm sure it was the Adirondack Crescent. And I read someplace that there, around the turn of the century, that's 1900, this area was well known. It was almost the breadbasket of America in the earlier period. Wheat was growing quite prevalently, and still can today. It's probably one of the best grass-growing regions in the country, and there were more or less 600 farmstead creameries in this Adirondack Crescent, which is roughly equivalent to the blue line. That's 600. They made cheese, they fed the community, and they even shipped it around the world. So we'll get to the business challenges in a second. And then it's a great environment. I'll use the one great, best example that I know, and that is the example of rotational grazing. Absolutely the best thing you can do for a cow is to feed them a fresh patch of grass every day. Cows have very special animals, as you know, and goats too, by the way. They have a rumen in their stomach, which means they can convert grass to energy, which we can't do as human beings. And so this is a good example. The cows will graze every day. And the best thing you can do for the soil is to graze cows on it every day. They're walking along, they're eating the grass, they're not destroying it. You rest, you can see it's resting on the right, and they're depositing close to 50 pounds a day of manure. No nitrogen, no petroleum products, no nothing. That's 9 tons a year for each cow, by the way. And if the cows are out here, they're not here. And I wish I had the before picture, but this was a stream bed which was completely eroded. And when they're here and not here, we have a chance to plant some trees. So now we're going to get to the challenges. The challenges as we see them. What are the challenges as we see them?
So the first challenge is fresh food is hard to produce, the work is too hard, and no one will do it anymore. And we are really finding that this really isn't the case anymore. Yes, small-scale farming is difficult. By definition, it's not efficient. The hours are long, and they're unpredictable, and the work is hard. But today we're seeing some of the most talented people coming up to this region and really wanting to get involved. We've seen people coming from top universities and from local high schools. We've even seen people, who are career professionals and are ready for life change and jumping into farming. And, we've, on our own farm and on many surrounding farms, we've, seen these people coming on as full-time or part-time employees. So, and these are some of the interns that we have this summer at our farm, ranging in age and all that. So despite all these challenges, people are really seeing that there are more rewards, so that's making people want to come do it.
The second challenge is that farming doesn't work anymore on a small scale. And this is a pretty good point, I have to say. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, it's a product of the success in the U.S. We spend, on average, 9% of our disposable income as Americans on food. And that's down from 25% that we spent less than 50 years ago. So that's the agricultural revolution, the success of the agricultural revolution. So as a local farmer, that's not so good for us because it means we're competing against a very inexpensive, cheap, some people would say, product. So the only way we address this problem is, number one, we have to convince people, and people have to convince themselves it's actually better to eat this kind of food. And there are plenty of studies around, which I won't go into all of them, the lower cholesterol from pasture-raised chickens, the omega-3 profile of grass-fed beef. And that's starting to happen. But then the second thing that we've decided that we have to do is you have to go direct, because a big part of the food system is in transportation, a big part of it's in margin. And the only way we've solved the margin problem is to go direct. And that's why you see this proliferation of farmers markets, you see CSA, direct selling of all sorts. It's the only way that we can think to solve the problem. There's good news and bad news. Number one, it means we're in the marketing business as well as in the farming business, and that's not for everybody. The good news is that with all the tools around nowadays, most of which are better done by my daughter than me, is that the social media, all these contacts. Our little farm has close to 1,000 friends? Friends. So the impact that you can have is pretty amazing in this world. And with broadband, I got to tell you, there are opportunities for these things to associate with each other.
Okay. All right. So you've heard what we've had to say. So what can you do? First is get back into the kitchen. I cannot stress this enough. You will not get better food than you can when you get it with farm fresh ingredients. Even if you're a bad cook, it doesn't matter. You would be surprised what you can, like the flavors that you'll get from freshly grown kale and grass-fed beef that you just throw on a pan. Additionally, and up in this area, it's really easy to get those ingredients. Frequent farmers markets, join a CSA, go to stores that sell this kind of food. I personally, my last 2 years up at Colgate, my roommates and I joined a CSA up at school, and so we were guaranteed fresh food for the semester, and it really forced us to experiment in the kitchen because you get the normal food, but then you also get random things that you've never seen before and you don't know what to do with. So it gets interesting. Second, educate yourself about where your food comes from. Talk to someone in the farmers at the farmers market. Go to restaurants that have good food. These are just some examples of the restaurants and stores in the North Country that are great sources for this. And finally, if you want to make a go of it, get involved. If you're starting for the younger people in the room, become an intern, reach out to different farmers. If you're ready for career change, work part-time, or reach out to different farmers. I've worked a few summers up at our farm, and I think it's really awesome that I know how to process my own chicken. I've seen them come in the mail 2 days old to raising it all the way up to when everyone at the farm gets up at 6 a.m. to gather the chickens and process them as like a big group. So it's a lot of fun. So take the pledge. Yeah.
So that's it. That's what we had to tell you.